everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Paulding Board of Commissioners Work Session on this March 8, 2016. I call the meeting to order and welcome all our invited guests and elected officials. Are there any elected officials in the room? Got our High Sheriff, Gary Gulledge. Thank you, Sheriff, for being here. Anybody else? Kim Cobb, Board of Education. Thank you for being here. Anybody else on this? Thank you all, and thank you, sir. If you will, turn off your devices. This is interrupting production. Marcia, bring them. At this time, I ask Rebecca Meredith if you would to read the ordinance regarding public participation.
Section 2-61. Public participation on agenda items in accordance with this section, Paulding County residents shall be afforded an opportunity to address the Board of Commissioners on work or regular session agenda items. In the order of business, public participation on agenda items shall occur immediately after reports from committees and departments. Public participation on agenda items shall be conducted as follows. A, the speaker must be Paulding County resident or an owner of real property located within Paulding County. B, the speaker may address any consent agenda, new business, or old business item which is on the current meeting agenda. C, the speaker must register a public participation sign-in sheet maintained by the marshal on duty at the meeting. The sign-in sheet shall be open for registration beginning 10 minutes prior to the advertised meeting time and remain open until the meeting is called to order. The speaker shall register their name, address, and the agenda topic about which they will speak. D, the speaker must limit their comments to their selected agenda topic. E, each speaker will be allotted 5 minutes to speak. No speaker will devote any of their allotted time to a different speaker. 2, public participation on non-agenda items. In accordance with this section, Paulding County residents shall be afforded an opportunity to address the Board of Commissioners on items which are not a part of the current meeting agenda. In the order of business, public participation on non-agenda items shall be the final meeting agenda item. Public participation on non-agenda items shall be conducted as follows. The speaker must be a Paulding County resident or an owner of real property located within Paulding County. The speaker must submit their name and the specific topic of their comments to the chair through the county clerk by the close of business, 5 p.m. on the Friday afternoon preceding the Board of Commissioners' next scheduled meeting. Each speaker must limit their comments to their designated topic. Each speaker will be allotted 5 minutes to speak. No speaker may yield any of their allotted time to a different speaker. Each speaker is limited to 1 speaking opportunity during each meeting day. No person may use the public participation portion of a meeting to advocate for or against the nomination, appointment, or election of any candidate for any elected office. 5, ineligible speakers. The following classes of individuals are ineligible to participate as a speaker. Individuals including members of their campaign committees who have filed a declaration of intention to accept campaign contributions from the date of filing until the date that the election results for the office sought are certified. Individuals including their attorney, agents, or assigns who are parties to litigation involving Paulding County and or its elected officials, agents, or employees if such litigation is currently pending in either state or federal court, or who have filed a pending FE11 notice with Paulding County. Individuals who are former employees of Paulding County, including their attorneys, agents, or assigns, until the passage of 90 days following the date of termination, cessation, or resignation of their employment. 6, the quorum of members of the public. Members of the public shall not make inappropriate or offensive comments at a board meeting and are expected to comply with the rules of decorum that are established for commissioners. Individuals who violate any rule of the board may be ruled out of order by the chair or on a point of order by a commissioner. A majority vote of the board will rule on the point of order. An individual who violates the rules of decorum may be removed from the meeting at the direction of the chair. 7, public hearings. The Board of Commissioners may schedule public hearings for the purpose of soliciting public comment on any subject of interest to the board. Hearings may be held immediately prior to, during, or following a meeting of the board or at such other places and times as the board may determine. No official action shall be taken at any such public hearing except when scheduled during the course of a regular or called board meeting.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Pastor Deborah Opie, Director of Outreach and Inreach at Oasis Family Life Church, to bring our invocation and pledge. Would you stand with me if you're able?
Father God, we come to you in the name of Jesus, thanking you for this opportunity. We thank you for your mercy and your grace. God, as the members of this commission rally around the issues concerning this county, God, we pray that you would give them wisdom, that you would open up their understanding and give them an ear to hear what your Spirit is saying. Father, we pray that you would allow Paulding County to become a light that's set upon a hill that cannot be hid. We thank you for choosing these wisdom, these wise men and women of God. And we thank you for what you would do in us, through us, and for us. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Now I'd like to take a quick moment and introduce our newest board member, Ron Davis, as our new Post 1 Commissioner. Minutes, the February 23rd, 2016 work session minutes and the February 23rd, 2016 board meeting minutes are available for your review. The Board of Commissioners would like to present Chris Stitchcomb with the Employee of the Month Award. I believe you have two people who want to speak about you, Will Lyons and also possibly James Stubbs. James here?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, would you come forward? Basic Firing Squad, huh?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Due to my position in the county, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to work beside most of the employees in Paulding County. Few have been more dedicated than Chris Stitchcomb, and I thought we should recognize her efforts in the county. Chris is employed by the tax assessor's office and holds the position as senior cartographer. It is their primary responsibility to keep the assessor's mapping up to date. And I'm not going to dive too much into that. I'll let James go into detail about that portion. Individual characteristics of Chris Stitchcomb are hard to find when sorting through his resumes. They're also hard to articulate details enough for somebody to understand those qualities of an individual. When I say she's dedicated, the term dedicated is often vague and left to interpretation. So I'd like to explain the details of why I've recommended Chris for this special award. Chris is self-motivated and has an abundance of initiative. Typically, you'll find her working long hours, early in the morning prior to anyone's arrival. She doesn't wait for the clock to strike to begin her day, nor will she be found running through the halls to make sure she's on time. She begins her day well before most of us arrive. When it comes to the end of the day, Chris can be found focused on her work at her desk, not worried about the clock, but worried about the details of the business and make sure they're on time and adequately addressed. On a side note, my department typically has to work after hours and weekends and holidays so we don't interrupt production. Some of these duties are non-intrusive to the employees, so we don't have to send out notifications. However, I had to put it in my workflow to notify Chris because she will often come in on those times, and I'm going to take away from her production hours. I think she's doing so by her choice. As I mentioned, she's a senior photographer for the assessor's office, and therefore her work is often shared with GIS. We work together in the design and the details of the troubleshooting of programs and the data workflow. She is positive, energetic, and eager to take on new challenges to improve the business process and articulate about her recommendations and thoughts. When designing a new workflow for data processing, it is important to understand how one decision will affect another and other processes downstream. Chris has the ability to recognize, analyze, and understand these techniques. The assessor's parcel layer, which Chris maintains, is a highly desired layer in GIS and a foundation to build several layers upon. It has been requested and purchased many times, and I don't know if GIS would be as advanced or as powerful without her involvement. Another trait I haven't discussed is her ability to interact with the customers and her customer service skills. Chris is always above and beyond. I know this term is tossed around frequently these days, but her ability to interact with the public and the other employees is second to none. She is extremely knowledgeable in her subject matter. She wants to satisfy the request as quickly and as detailed as she can, so all questions are answered. Most of the time, she will provide enough information during the initial questions, but also answer any additional questions that might arise from the leading question. She's passionate about her job, her responsibilities, and cares deeply about the people she is helping. As I mentioned, she's self-motivated. She asks for nothing that I'm aware of and gives everything without asking. Her disciplined work ethic drives her to her own satisfaction. There are very little accolades for her position, no special awards for a job well done, or professional societies that praise the data she maintains. Although nearly every department in the county utilizes the work Chris maintains in some form, she is behind the scenes if you recognize her talents or understand her level of devotion to maintain the information. Her contributions are virtually impossible to measure. Again, Chris doesn't require somebody to acknowledge her work or long hours. She does it because she's dedicated to pursue personal satisfaction, knowing the job is done right and done well, which makes this recognition special. Chris, regardless of your personal feelings about this recognition, I think it was important for others to know how hard you work for Paulding County and know what I know about you. So with that, I'll turn it over to James. Congratulations.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning. Morning.
Morning, gentlemen. I'd like to kind of piggyback off what Will said. When we hired Chris some 16 years ago, she was actually working in the address department on the heels of the complete addressing, readdressing of the entire county. She came to us with zero skills in what she's doing today. She has been self-taught, self-motivated, and when we hired her, we really didn't realize we hired two. And where I'm getting with that is even back in the old building, on Saturdays when I would come through, or on Sunday afternoons after church, or in the late evenings, for some reason her car was there. And I would stop by and ask her what she was doing there, because frankly it wasn't showing up on the timesheets. So when I confronted her about this on multiple times, she let me know real quick that she had an evil twin. And her evil twin was dedicated to work and seeing that things got done. I asked her employees, with Chris being over our mapping division, Chris couldn't be where she is today without the people that are underneath her. But in order for them to work, it takes a leader to make sure that things are in place to make sure our office flows correctly. Her job description described a cartographer, which is taking legal metes and bounds and put it into the line work that you see with information behind it for the GIS. Her job description didn't require anything having to do with appraisals or anything else. She came to me back in 2011 and said she wanted to learn more about the appraisal side. So I told her I don't have any appraisal staff available, but you're more than welcome to go, and it will help you overall learn our office in Morgan Hill. Within 3 years, she became an appraiser level 3 with the Department of Revenue. There's only one level above that throughout the estate. Keep in mind that every single thing that she has done, we're talking grades in excess of 85 and above for somebody that had no appraisal experience. One of the Department of Revenue's lackings is specialized training, which is the mapping. There is no training for mappers. So we started looking at the IAAO, which is an international organization for specialized training for Chris. She started that down the course of becoming a cadastral mapping expert, and so far she's aced all the prerequisites, and within 3 years we fully expect that Chris will be receiving her designation. When I started looking into the designation, and I don't even know if Chris realizes this, there's only 2 in the state of Georgia. So when Chris achieves this, there's no doubt that she'll achieve this. She'll only be the 3rd person in the entire state of Georgia that holds such designation. And that's a testament to her work, and this is in addition to everything that she does on a daily basis. So Chris is to be commended today. I appreciate Will nominating her. It's really special when someone outside your own department nominates one of your employees. That's a testament to her work and other people seeing her job. So thank you, Chris, for everything that you do for us.
Members of Chris' family here and people she works with, will y'all come forward? What a fan club. Y'all scooch together and some shorter folks get us in the front. Man, this is a big fan club. Thank you, Chris. I've asked Chris to say a few words.
I just want to say how much of a pleasure this has been. I wasn't quite excited about this when I found out, but it's been an honor. And I thank you for doing this. You not only serve the citizens of Paulding County, but you also, it's nice to know that you care about us and the employees as well.
Thank you. The Board of Commissioners would like to present the Boys and Girls Club Week Proclamation. Robert Stevens, new Boys and Girls Club President. Robert, are you here today, or is Wayne Glover here today? Is anybody here today for the Boys and Girls Club? Okay, I'll read this proclamation. Boys and Girls Club Week, March 7th to the 12th. Whereas the young people of Paulding County, Georgia are tomorrow's leaders, and whereas many such young people need professional and youth services to help them reach their full potential, and whereas the Paulding County Boys and Girls Club provides services to more than 154 young people annually, and whereas the Boys and Girls Club are places where great futures are start. They are at the forefront of the efforts in academic success, healthy lifestyles, and good character and citizenship. And whereas the Boys and Girls Club organization in our state help ensure that our young people keep off the streets, offering them a young and supportive place to go, providing them with quality programs. Whereas the Boys and Girls Club will celebrate National Boys and Club Girls Week, the week 2016, along with some 4,000 clubs and more than 2 million young people nationwide. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, David A. Austin, Chairman of the Paulding County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim March 7th through 12th as Boys and Girls Club Week in Paulding County, and call on citizens to join me in recognizing and commending the Boys and Girls Organization in our state for providing comprehensive, effective services to the young people in our communities. Congratulations. Keevy Dixon received the Citizenship Award this year. He is the chairman of that board, and a job well done. An ex-professional basketball player, just done an outstanding job. And Missy Dugan, who is the wife of our Senator Mike Dugan's wife, does run our entire region for Boys and Girls Club. So we've got a lot of good leadership in our region. There are no invited guests. Bid awards, discuss action to award the Economic Development Study to Strategic Planning Group Incorporated in the amount of $77,265 capital.
Good morning. I'm just going to briefly touch the process, and Ann can tell you a little bit about what this study will provide us. On February 5th, we received proposals for an economic development study. This will assist us in preparing our comprehensive plan that's due to the state next year. We had 21 participants, which was a lot more than we anticipated. They narrowed the proposals down to 11, I believe, and had 11 interviews. 6 interviews. And they're recommending award to Strategic Planning Group in the amount of $77,265. So with that, I'll
This is a plan that has to be turned into the Department of Community Affairs, so it is something that we are tasked with doing, and Ann, thank you for taking this task. I appreciate it.
No problem. Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you. When we just did decide we have to update the comprehensive plan, we thought that based on the fact that 74% or more of our residents leave the county for work, and only 18% of our county is considered commercial or industrial, that an economic development study would be an excellent complement to doing our comprehensive plan. We put out an RFP that, like Tyler said, we got 21 responses. The tasks are to do a county economic profile and analysis of the county's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to prepare a strategic direction action plan or step-by-step guide, along with evaluation and measurement tools to make sure that we are staying on task. Like Tyler said, we did get 21 responses, which was overwhelming. We had 7 members on the review team, and I know I read just about every page of every document, and we did narrow it down to 6. And we unanimously selected the Strategic Planning Group. They are out of Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. They have done a lot of work in the Atlanta area. They recently completed a study for Johns Creek, Georgia that was adopted in February. The team was impressed by their data analysis, their variety to look at things such as office, manufacturing, flex, medical, retail, and tourism. One of the review members asked Mr. Gray, the principal, what he thought about the Silver Comet Trail, and he stated that it is a gold mine. He also spoke about workforce development, revenue enhancement, partnerships and marketing, and acknowledged that economic development is complex and competitive. So we look forward to your favorable approval of this and to get started working on this along with the rest of our comp plan.
Any questions of Tabitha or Ann? Thank you.
Thank you.
Reports from committees and departments. We have James Stokes for a department update to the tax assessor's office.
Good morning once again.
Morning, gentlemen.
I was asked to come and give a brief update on a new task that we're doing in our office. So leading into that, one of the things in our office that is very labor intensive is our daily walk around to every single property in the county. It's recommended through the Department of Revenue that we actually have someone on the ground physically at every single property every 3 years. Now, that's very important. The main reason for that is when we're looking at our data, how reliable is it when we're establishing our value annually? That takes people. It's been very labor intensive, and there's been a lot of administrative work that we were trying to figure out a way to reduce. So in say, you have it on your monitors here. What we were looking at is a way for our field appraisers to be able to use a mobile device in the field, and thus reducing the amount of, number one, paper, the amount of resources that it took to print all the paperwork, to organize all the paperwork, to go to the field and do the work. You're writing it on a sheet of paper, you're coming back into the office, you're manually inputting it into the system and uploading all your photos. We had a huge amount of administrative time that in my mind was being wasted. So we looked at several different variations in the office. We worked with our IT department on a couple different avenues that we may be able to go, and they simply didn't work. A lot of it had to do with technology at the time. As technology has improved over the years, so has the ability and more flexibility for us to take advantage of some of these things. So number one, the physical data, it has to be right. Number two, we're required or not required, it's recommended that physically to be on each property every 3 years to ensure that our data is right. We were looking at critical areas. As the real estate market continues to increase, we were not going to be able to keep up and do the jobs that we were normally expected to do. So we needed a solution. We were looking at a way to make the door-to-door operations smoother, and we were looking for a way to use technology to assist. We were using the staff members to isolate, to say, where can you benefit from these various products? We drafted an area of concern. The issues were we could not stay connected in the field. We had difficulty migrating to various areas within our appraisal software. We could not use our sketching product in the field. And the various areas inside our appraisal software were not able to minimize. You couldn't see it when you were in the field. And it was very cumbersome when they were using a laptop carrying them to the field. So right now, just to give you a sort of an idea of what we do, this is a map of the county. Each of those colored areas are a territory that's dedicated to a specific appraiser, and they have assistants. Now, we work basically north to south, east to west, going door to door through all this. The appraisers have an administrator assign a map to them. They have to print every property record card. So let's just put it in perspective what we're talking about. In congested areas, say your Bentwaters and your developments of PRD, you can have in one map 1,500 parcels within a map. For every parcel, there's 2 property record cards. So do the math, you're talking about over 3,000 sheets of paper that the appraiser is having to print, go to the field and do their work. They've got to sort all the work. They've got to print a 3x3 aerial map. And they're looking at doing somewhere to the tune of around 30 parcels per day on average. So once they're doing all their field work, then they're coming back to the office and they're having to do data entry. They've already done the work in the field. So why is this redundancy in having to do the same amount of work? They're completing the property record cards, putting them back in an organized state, and filing them away. So this is what we were looking at. annually, and this is on the low side for our office, annually the amount of prep time per year was running about $6,400. The amount for data entry is right at $30,000 per year. And somebody sitting at a desk doing manual data entry. So that brings the total to about $36,000 that we were looking to get that number down. So that's where we're at today. We looked at several different vendors. A company out of Ohio, the individual, he actually owns a revaluation company, and he developed his own software application. This is kind of the dashboard side, what an administrator would see. So right here, you're going in, you know how many parcels are in the system, you know how many users you have. We can track exactly who's doing what inside the system, how far along they are with the respective work that they're doing. We can look in detail. You can notice the queries over here. We can query up basically anything, any possible data, and isolate it to a specific person, specific date, specific address, or anything. Pull up that parcel and see what has been changed. They're adding the photos on the fly. Areas that they've changed is highlighted in red. And then it even tells us what has happened. It says what it was and what they've changed it to. They're able to sketch completely in the field. They're able to see all of our GIS mapping on site. Then the managers can track every single change that's been done in the field. One of the other things that we wanted the ability was to monitor where our staff was in the field. As you can see, and it may be difficult, all of these little bubbles through here, that's where the field staff, a field staff was, and it shows exactly what time they were there and how long they were there. Now, that's a benefit for administration as well as the staff member itself. Once we're, the second stage of this is to build in various functions like a panic hub, which is you're on a property and we have had situations where it becomes tense, and a way for them to automatically hit a button, it alert administrators, it go into record mode, not show on the iPad, and it's recording everything that's happening at that time to let the administrators know that there's a situation. This is just one step of this. Now, we were the first county in the state of Georgia to use a mobile device. Other counties had tried various things like what we were doing, but we're just like we weren't able to make it happen. Since we were we converted all of our system, you've had 4 counties that have not now come online. You've got another 2 that have contracts pending with the vendor. 4 more have received quotes, and another 5 counties have are in negotiations with this. Now, I'm leaving it up to you guys if you want to see what it looks like from the field staff. We have a tablet here, and it shows a live what you're seeing if you were in the field. That's up to you guys, or I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Just give us a shot of it.
Okay. As you can see, this is the iPad. This is the same exact process that the staff is going to be on in the field. So right here, when we as administrators, when we send work to the appraisers, the first thing that happens is it alerts them through the iPad that, hey, you've got a new work order in. They accept the work. They say that if it's reasonable or not. All they're having to do is swipe it, then it pulls up everything having to do with the parcel. You have the legal information, you have under the residences, you have all of the information that we need for the residents. You're able to get to the sketch information, as well as the maps. If you can see right there in the center, that's live. So now this thing doesn't work that good deep inside this building. But it's as detailed as when we're looking at the appraisers, we've called to get an idea of where they are compared to where we're at. And we can tell as close if they're in 30 foot of where this is. So they can actually go through the parcels They can take the pictures, they can add the pictures.
That's not a pretty picture.
Trust me, I won't use this, I won't tag this one to lose every parcel of this. You're accepting it, you're telling it which associated item it needs to go to. It's done. So at the end of the day, when they mark, or even on the fly, as they're going through there, and they mark it as done, they're done. It downloads 4 times a day, and then as they're downloaded, the administrators can monitor what they're doing, what changes are being made, where they're at, when they're making the changes. And so far, it's worked flawlessly for us. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I tell you, I'm impressed. I was when I began to hear this, and James came to me and said, we want to launch a pilot program. And I thought, well, how neat is this to be the first in the state to do this? I have to tell you, we've got a homegrown guy here. His family raised him here. He was educated here, and he served. And you've been on the tax assessor board for how long?
Going on 20 years.
20 years. And then he was appointed chief appraiser, what, 7 years ago? 6 years ago. And has done a magnificent job. He's respected all over the state. And I'd like to hear a standing ovation. He is president of the Tax Assessor Association for our region, and that includes 39 counties. Let's stand up for James. James, thank you. Excellent report. Excellent out in the field, and keep us abreast of how things are.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's absolutely local board done. At this time now, we are ready for an update from Kelly Comstock for the Richland Creek Reservoir update. You guys have been busy.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. And I believe, Ron, you drank out of a fire hose yesterday? Yeah.
Yeah, we did have the pleasure of meeting with Commissioner Davis and bringing him up to speed on some of the current activities. So he's got a little preview of what you're going to see today. It's a very exciting time for the Richland Creek Water Supply Program. We're officially entering into the next phase of the project, which is essentially the construction phase. With the 2 awards that were given at the last commission meeting, the tree harvesting and initial site prep, we're beginning the initial construction phases of the project. But what I thought it would be good to do would be to step you through where we are with all the other activity that's ongoing in parallel to those 2 assignments. First of all, general overview in terms of the status of the reservoir. If you recall, we had completed the design. We had submitted it to the Georgia Safe Dams program back at the end of last year, went through a 90-day review period. They came back with a series of comments. Those comments have all been addressed, and we met last week for the follow-up meeting with Georgia Safe Dams, reviewed all of those comments, and they appear to be satisfying with those comments. They will officially issue the permit in about 30 days is what they're saying. So in parallel to that, if you recall, we had done a peer review, bringing in another dam engineer to take a look at that, to have sort of an independent look at the technical calculations associated with the dam. That came back very positive. They felt that the design was very, very conservative. So from the county's perspective, we've dotted all the i's and crossed the t's, and we feel that we have a very conservative, competent design in front of us. To prepare for the bidding phase, which will occur next, we've begun a process of pre-qualifying the contractors. It's very specialized construction, if you recall. The earthen embankment with the grout curtain wall and the slurry wall that will be constructed. We want to make sure that we have the best qualified companies to do so. I can tell you that the response was overwhelming. We were absolutely ecstatic with the number of submittals that we got in the pre-qualification process. We had 7 prime contractors. We were anticipating 3 to 4. We had 7 prime and then 10 specialty contractors for each of the 2 areas. So we had 27 different submittals. We were very, very pleased with that. We're going through the process now of confirming their qualifications, that they will be able to bid. And then the anticipation is that bidding of the dam will actually take place in the May timeframe. So those contractors will get the contract documents the middle of this month, and then they will begin the bidding process and submit costs in May. One of the requirements of the permit is that we have to establish a USGS or a monitoring station downstream of the anticipated construction area. If you recall, the board authorized USGS to install that station, and that installation is now complete and it's up and running. I'll show you a few pictures of the station in a minute. Tree harvesting and initial site grading contracts were awarded, and they will begin the middle of this month with the tree clearing and the end of this month for the actual initial construction of the entrance road and site preparation. And the anticipation is that the dam contractor will begin construction in July or August. That's a requirement based on the permit, where we have to be outside of the Cherokee Darter mating season with any land disturbance around the streams. The USGS monitoring station was installed essentially where that little blue dot is. It's the very far ends of disturbance, so that's where the dam is, and the water will be behind that dam as well as the water treatment plant. So that's the very limits of construction of the entire project that's going to be taking place. And Richmond Creek flows to the north. So we're basically monitoring the water quality right now prior to construction, and then as we move forward into construction, we're able to monitor the flow and the water quality in Richmond Creek to make sure that the construction activity isn't negatively affecting the stream. And then long-term, that'll be a monitoring station that's required for compliance, making sure that water is being released at adequate volume and a sufficient temperature to be able to not affect the conditions of Richmond Creek. This is a couple of pictures of what the monitoring station looks like. It looks somewhat like a deer stand. People have mentioned that it would be useful for that, but the monitoring equipment is up on the center platform. It's elevated at that level in case there was a major flood event that occurred. You wouldn't damage any of the equipment. There's equipment, a probe, and a stage within Richmond Creek itself. You can see that in the upper right photo. And then information from that probe is sent to a secure box that's located on top of the tower. And that box is powered by solar, so we didn't have to run power to this, which was great because we would have had to have a very high expense to do that and disturb a lot of trees along the way. The other thing that's very unique about this is because it's a USGS device, it communicates via satellite technology. So this part of the site is very spotty in terms of cellular communication. So satellite was a perfect choice for us. It was online right away. It's been consistently online, and the USGS maintains all this equipment. They monitor it constantly. They check the calibrations regularly, and they basically report all of the data up in real time to their website. And so you can go on to this official gauge station and view all of the different data associated with it. There's about a 15-minute delay from when the measurement is taken in the field to when it's actually on the website. So that's one of the requirements of the permit, was to have this available for the general public. We felt that USGS, by doing it through their website, obviously the data is true tested and all within their control. So very, very good setup there. And you can also, we also provided a link directly to this location off the program website, so people that are interested in the program can get to the online water quality. The location that was selected also is a location where the county had conducted previous monitoring. They had a temporary probe in there for a period from 2012 through 2015. So that allows us to have a good understanding of the historical nature of that stream. We can see what used to happen in terms of flows and temperatures and turbidity, and we can compare it to the new data that comes off of the system. The entrance road and timber harvest, as I mentioned, the contracts were awarded in February, and the timber harvest will begin planning this week. They'll get into the full swing of things by the middle of the month, and the entrance road contractor will begin in late March with the anticipation of being complete by August. So when the dam and the water treatment plant contractors come on board, that entrance road will be in place, the turning lanes off of 61 will be in place, the initial site prep will be done, and the water treatment plant and the dam contractors will be able to get to work right away and be very efficient in doing so. In terms of the water treatment plants and pump stations, the design is just about 100%. We anticipate that being done next week, and it's being submitted right now to the EPD drinking water program for their final review. That takes about 30 days for them to issue the permit associated with the water treatment plant. If you recall, this project, it was procured using a construction manager at risk, a CMAR contract. So what will ultimately be established with the CMAR contractor is a single contract with the Board of Commissioners, and that'll take place in the May or June timeframe. However, there are many, many subcontractors that will be working on this project. One of the requirements that JIFA has with their funding is that in a CMAR arrangement like this, 100% of the work has to be competitively bid out. So we've begun working with the CMAR contractor, working with purchasing, and treating it much like there are many, many different projects coming out that require bids to the general public, so that they get a lot of subcontractors coming to them. And the response has been great. They issued 15 requests for qualifications for the very specialized area of construction for the water treatment plant and pump stations, and they received 69 different submissions. So a lot of great interest. There are a whole bunch of other areas that will be directly bid out that won't require pre-qualifications. Landscaping, for example, fencing, HVAC, some of those areas, fire protection, some of those things won't necessarily require pre-qualification. And so then those bidders will also be informed. So there will be a lot of activity that will be taking place in terms of preparing the guaranteed maximum price that ultimately comes to the Commission. The CMAR contractor will submit the guaranteed maximum price to May for approval to the county, and that will go to the Water and Sewer Advisory Board and then to the Board of Commissioners in the June timeframe. It's anticipated, once again, the construction of the water treatment plant would begin in late August in parallel with the reservoir construction. The raw water pipeline is proceeding as well. We've begun the process of easement acquisition on the parcels that will run between the river and the reservoir. The design is at 30% right now. The alignment has been finalized, and we're beginning to advance the design. The area at the airport has been finalized based on this City of Carterville's plans for the airport, and one of the agenda items today is to deal with the additional piping associated with that area, and we'll talk about that under that agenda item. It's anticipated that construction will begin late 2016. Right now it's estimated to be October timeframe, and it should be complete in about a year, so either late 2017 or early 2018. Finished water pipeline and booster pump station. That project is a design bid build project where we're going to first design the pipeline and then it will be bid out. So we recently underwent a selection process for an engineering firm. We issued an RFP. We actually received 11 different engineering proposals. So once again, a lot of interest, a lot of great interest. We interviewed them, we shortlisted, and we selected an engineering firm. And so that recommendation will go to the Water and Sewer Advisory Board this month and will be in front of you at the second commission meeting in March. It's anticipated the design will take approximately 10 months. And after that, we'll go to a procurement phase. So early 2017, we'll get a contractor on board. Construction will start on that large pipeline, 12 miles, starting in March of 2017, and will be complete in March of 2019. And we've been doing a lot in the area of public outreach. We've had continued involvement with the stakeholder communication implementation team. We actually worked with Paulding County Schools and had an artwork competition in the elementary schools. We had a lot of great submissions, and some selections have been made for winners there, and so you'll be starting to see those. And that artwork is going to be on our website as well as within different Paulding County buildings. We also had a mascot competition, and we had a great selection for that mascot. I won't ruin it and tell you what it is, but you'll be able to see that announced in the near term. And we're continuing to provide briefings to cities and other civic organizations. Later this week, we're actually presenting with the Rotary Club up in Cartersville who had an interest in the program, so we're going to do that. We're continuing to feed out information through website updates, newsletters, and a recent bill insert. And we've had steady activity on our website. We're regularly responding to calls and questions that are submitted via website. A lot of people are interested in when the construction is going to start. A lot of people are interested in where the reservoir is specifically and learning a little bit more about it. So we've been very proactive in logging all of those conversations with the government. Once again, just to refresh your memory in terms of the project cost estimate, the total program is estimated to be $215 million. And that includes the design, construction management, easements, mitigation, and complete project management, program management. Very positive, the costs that have all been coming in so far within the budget, so that's very good. Just wanted to point out that we're not under contract for this whole thing yet, so it still is a cost estimate, and it's really dependent on market factors. The good news is we've got some very positive news in the marketplace. Fuel is very low, and that significantly impacts the construction costs. So with low fuel prices, we anticipate to see low construction costs. One of the negative areas that we have is that there's a lot of competing construction going on, including the Avatron development up at Emerson that was announced, which is over $1 billion worth of construction. The good news is it doesn't look like it's impacting the contractors who would be going after this project. So we feel very confident in this number, but we just wanted to caution that this number could be anywhere plus or minus 5% at the end of the day. The good news is the financial plan has a lot of conservatism built into it, so even if it was high by 5% at the end of the day, it wouldn't adjust the recent rate increase that took place. There's plenty of conservatism built into that. We're currently at about $20 million under contract, and that's all within budget. We've got about $11 million more coming in today with a few of the agenda items. Once again, all within budget. But I just point that out to say by June we'll be at approximately $180 million under contract. So you've seen some large numbers, you've seen some big numbers today. You're going to see real large numbers between now and June when the reservoir, which is around $50 million, and the water treatment plant, which is around $85 million, come on board. So everything's looking very positive from a cost standpoint. And just to get you prepared for what will be coming in front of you, we have 2 new business items today. We will be making a recommendation for the finished water pipeline engineering contract later this month. And then in April, we will have the electrical service for the water treatment plant, additional program management authorization, and then easement acquisition services for the finished water pipeline. So there'll be 3 items there. And then in May, the large ones, the GMP for the water treatment plant and pump stations, and the reservoir construction contract. Depending on the timing of the bidding, and if there's an extension, that may carry over into June. One or both of those may carry over to June. It just depends on how procurement works with purchasing, and if we have to extend the bidding period for either one of those. Those are very large projects. We want to give bidders plenty of time, at least 60 days to be able to review the bids and make sure that they're putting in their absolute best price possible. With that, any questions on the current status of the Richmond Creek Water Plant?
What are you going to think about or do once this project is done?
I'm just focused on this right now.
Well, thank you. Any questions? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Public participation on agenda items, there are none. Consent agenda. On the March consent agenda, declare items listed as surplus and approve their disposal through auction or trade. The fire department has Unit 550, a 93 Ford F450 with a common serial number. A fire Unit 506, 1947 Dodge with a serial number. Number 2, declare items listed as surplus and approve for their disposal through donation to Brooks County Sheriff's Office. Tabitha, you've been instrumental in this. Sheriff's Department K9 kennel for Tahoe is American aluminum product.
Yes, sir, and we have a little bit more information, identification information for the kennel. The make is an Easy Rider, so we'd like to add that if we can. And the model is the American aluminum. We also now have the serial number, which is 11-00150. And it's okay, we just like to add that information to the packaging.
Any questions? Yeah. There are no old business. Under new business, I'm going to call for a restroom break here. It got quite extensive. I'm kind of old, so if you don't mind, for about a 3 to 5 minute restroom break, we'll be right back with you. Good morning, folks, and we're back in session. Thank you for that short break. I failed to recognize earlier, we have our chairman of the board of the tax assessor, Alfred Creighton. Would you stand? You've been serving us how long, Alfred?
I've been on the board 22 years, and I've done it about 12 months.
Been on the board 22 years and been the chairman 12 years. Thank you so much for your service. Again, raised here in Baldwin. I watched him play ball as a young guy, and he's a good ball player, so thank you for what you do. Under new business, discuss action to authorize an amendment to the Arcadis Design Services contract for additional design services during construction, materials testing, inspection services for the Richland Creek Water Treatment Plant and dam in the amount of $8,815,000. I think you and Maury are going to cover this item. Kelly will.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. As we move from design into construction, this is being requested of Arcadis from the county to be able to provide engineering services during construction, as well as materials testing and inspection during the entire construction period. Their current contract is just for design services, so they've essentially reached the end of their contract. And if you recall, Arcadis is the designer not only of the water treatment plant and pump stations, but actually the dam as well. Just like their other contract, this would be set up on a time and materials basis, meaning that the amount of effort that is spent is what the county compensates them for. And the level of effort is basically dictated by the county. The amendment covers 4 different areas. They're listed here: additional design services, engineering services during construction, material testing, including their primary sub-consultant, Piedmont Geotechnical, and construction inspection services. And I'm going to touch on each one of these, but I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that this was a planned amendment to serve the next phase, and it was requested by the county, and it is within the budget that we've established for this phase. The additional design services, if you recall, their original scope during design was to design the reservoir and the water treatment plant. And as we got the permit, we saw the condition of the blackout period for the Cherokee Darter mating period. We recognized the logistical challenges associated with 61. So we decided to move forward with a smaller independent project, the Georgia Highway 61 improvements and the initial site prep. We had Arcadis do that design, do that erosion control, so we can move forward and go to procurement. So that was a scope item that they did not have in their original scope when they prepared their original design. Additionally, as we went into a CMAR contract, there's a lot of collaboration that takes place between that contractor and the engineer. Throughout the design process, the contractor reviews the 30, the 60, the 90% completion. They provide cost estimates back, and at times the design engineer has to make adjustments. This ultimately provides the best value, best product for the county, because you've got a contractor along through the entire design process, but also the best cost possible. When the 30% design was completed and submitted, the cost estimate that came back from the CMAR contractor was just about $105 million. So about $20 million greater than it is now. So throughout that process, from the 30% through final completion, the engineer was able to make changes to be able to reduce the total cost, and bring it down to about $85 million. So this process has played out very well. It played out how we hoped it would play out. It did require a little extra effort from the engineer standpoint because they had to do things a couple different times to get it right and get the best cost value possible. There were a couple areas where we had to do some early equipment selection as well in terms of the technology. And so in order to do that, the engineer had to essentially provide procurement packages, allowing the different vendors on the marketplace to come forward and evaluate the selections and decide on the technology. For example, dissolved air flotation, one of the primary technologies that's in place in the plant. There are several different vendors that are out there. Their systems are sufficiently different that it would affect the overall final design. So by doing that selection up front, we're able to finalize the design, and so what is on the drawings is what will actually be constructed, and we don't have to make any changes during the construction period to the design. We also had some additional design services necessary through the permitting process that were unanticipated. So all of these items were some of the additional design services that took place in the last couple of months or in the last year or so with the current contract. During the second item is engineering services during construction. The dam and the water treatment plant will take about 3 years for construction. And during that process, the engineer is heavily engaged with the contractor. The contractor selects equipment that's going to be used, prepares cut sheets, shop drawings, and then submits that to the engineer. For example, a pump. The contractor would select the pump manufacturer, would submit that to the engineer. The engineer would then review that shop drawing, would confirm that structurally it meets the requirements, that from a process standpoint it meets the requirements, that the motors and electrical connections are correct, and then approves the contractor so that the contractor then procures that equipment. So that's a pretty standard process. It occurs on all projects, but with the size of these projects, there's a lot of work that takes place. We anticipate up to 500 shop drawings that occur during this process. Additionally, the contractors or some of their sub-consultants may have questions during construction, so they generate a request for information that then goes back to the owner, program manager, and the design engineer. And as the engineer of record, the design engineer would be involved in formulating the proper responses to those questions. Any design clarifications or additional information that's needed for construction that may not be shown on the plans is also provided to the contractors. And then the engineer is involved in reviewing the contractor requests for substitution if they want to change a manufacturer that's listed in the specifications. And they'll also review their pay application, making sure that the contractor is indeed the percent complete they anticipate on a monthly basis, and attend regular progress meetings. One of the areas that's a pretty significant amount of this is the materials testing. With the amount of work that's taking place, there's a lot of geotechnical testing that takes place, looking at the soil. There's a lot of concrete cylinder testing that takes place. That's all going to be handled by Piedmont Geotechnical, who's heavily involved in the design of the dam. They're going to be on site already doing monitoring for the grout injection and the slurry wall and the construction. So it only made sense to have them do the materials testing as well, instead of bringing a separate contractor in to do that materials testing, because Piedmont Geotechnical is one of the best in the region for that. That actually saves the county money by having them perform it and not have to have another third party out there. They'll be heavily involved with all of these different aspects associated with the dam and the water treatment plant construction. And the fourth area is inspection services for the dam, water treatment plant, and pump stations. You're going to be putting in, at times, $10 million or more of construction a month going in, so there's going to be significant activity. You need to make sure that we've got eyes and ears on what's going on in the field and that what's being constructed is correct. We've got a construction manager that Arcadis will be providing out there, as well as 4 inspectors from Piedmont looking at concrete as well as geotechnical conditions at the dam and the water treatment plant, and 3 additional inspectors from Arcadis. There'll be specialized inspectors focused on electrical, process mechanical, and as well as general construction. So because the county doesn't have the specialty staff in this area, obviously you're looking for the engineer to provide that supplement workforce. Ron Caldwell, as program manager, will also be on site. We'll have an owner's agent that's out there that's basically being the eyes and the ears of the county and the department out there on site. Wanted to point out that the construction manager that Arcadis is proposing is Joe Gaskin. He's got significant experience in water treatment plant and Category 1 dam construction. And the owner's agent that we would have out there is Mark Harbor. Similar experience, significant experience in water treatment plant and Cat 1 dam construction. So you're going to have many people out there on our side of the table that know exactly what needs to take place from a Category 1 dam construction standpoint. So you're going to be you're going to have a lot of horsepower on your side of the table. So this is a breakdown of the total cost. Sort of shows what the additional design services, as well as the construction phase services. That includes the materials testing for the water treatment plant, the dam, and the initial road project, as well as inspection services for the water treatment plant, dam, road, and then their construction manager services. So the total is $8.8 million. Wanted to point out that we've worked through with Arcadis in finalizing this, basically making sure that we have the appropriate level of staffing. We had a first cut at it. It was over $11 million. Didn't make sense to be that high. We basically made sure that we had the appropriate staff, but we were also making sure that we were focused on the finances as well. So we settled in at this number. Once again, it's a time and materials contract that will be overseen by the county and program manager. The level of effort will essentially be what's paid on a monthly basis. So our requested action is this authorization.
Any questions?
I'd just like to say that I appreciate all your work. We've had post commissioners involved in the process all the way. I know Chairman Austin and I have been in quite a few water sewer board meetings, and it's great to see everybody involved and keeping the public involved and everything going on in this project, and everybody working together for what's good for our county. So I appreciate it so much. I appreciate the post commissioners and their time that they put and the time that you're going to put. I'll go ahead and say thank you. And so looking forward to that. But just Lori is keeping us in the loop, and it's been a pleasure to work on this project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2, discuss action authorizing amendment to the Garney Design Build contract for the design and construction of 4,700 linear feet of 48-inch diameter pipeline associated with Rich and Creek Water Supply Program in the amount of $2,750,000.
Thank you, sir. This is the second item for today. And if you recall, Garney was awarded a design-build contract in late 2014 for the raw water pipeline. The award was for 13,600 linear feet of pipeline, and it's the area that's highlighted in yellow there. And the very northern part was not awarded. At the time, we made the commission aware that that would come back as an additional amendment. And the reason we didn't award it at the time was because the situation at the Cartersville Airport was still up in the air. They were debating if they were going to ultimately expand to the east or not. And if we move forward with putting the pipeline in right on their boundary, it basically would be a situation where we may be under the future expansion and we'd have to move that pipe in the future. So we didn't think it was prudent to award at that time, but to delay and let them make the decision, which they've done. And they have decided they are going to expand, so the new alignment will be just to the east of where that planned expansion will be. So this is a planned amendment for 4,700 additional feet at the river that was not included with that original contract, and that's the section that's highlighted here in yellow, and you can see the current airport is that sort of light green area, and that swath of land directly to the east is their planned expansion. My understanding is they're not expanding the runway, but they're expanding a lot of the hangars and service areas associated with that airport. So this will include the design, the geotech, and construction of 4,700 linear feet of 48-inch pipe. One other aspect associated with this is that when the 404 permit was delayed, essentially, in terms of issuance, we did not tell them to proceed with the release of the original piping. And that was due to the fact that, once you release pipe, they manufacture it and it shows up on your doorstep. And we didn't know the timing, so we told them to hold. And basically, ductile iron pipe faced 2 different cost escalations of about 18% during that period from then until now. So we worked with the contractor and came up with a solution. We instead of using ductile iron pipe, we're going to use cement mortar lined steel. Typically, those two different products are bid directly against each other. There's no difference in life between the two, and this is a good engineering application for steel pipe. The good thing is steel has not seen the increases in escalation that ductile iron pipe has, so as a result, there's a savings of about $700,000. So this also allows that change to take place. So that was a very prudent thing from a cost perspective. So the total authorization is $2.75 million for this additional 4,700 linear feet of 48-inch pipeline. With this authorization, the entire 48-inch pipeline is now under contract, basically from the intake to the property of the resident.
Any questions? Again, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Number 3, discuss action to approve the May 1st, 2016 employee benefits plan renewal, including proposed change of medical and prescription drug insurance carrier, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Georgia. There were other proposed carriers and coverages competing with the same plan design with employee deductions. Brian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate this opportunity to present this to you. As you're all aware, our employee benefits plan is a very critical component of our total compensation package, and it's certainly my responsibility to you, the board, employees, as well as taxpayers, to have the most comprehensive, competitive, cost-effective plan we can have. To that end, we certainly are always looking at our plan when it's coming up for renewal. As you know, we're on a May 1 to April 30th renewal or plan year. And we did have some service issues this past year with our current carrier, United Healthcare. Took it as an opportunity to stop and take a look at some proposals, see what alternative carriers could do in terms of cost, plan design, customer service. And the long and short of it is we, after putting it out for national carriers, that includes UHC, of course, Blue Cross, Aetna, Humana, put it out there for them, took that and analyzed what they were able to offer to us. We started off with potentially a $1.35 million increase on the medical with United. That's just based on underwriting, and I can assure you that our friends at J. Smith Lanier would not have let that be acceptable. They would have negotiated it all the way down as far as they could. And ultimately they did guide this process. I do want to recognize their attendance here from J. Smith Lanier, our brokers. We have Gary Jacobs, Wendy Murphy, and David Easter with us. Certainly been able to answer questions too. But they guided us through this process over the last few months. Ultimately, we got ourselves down to Blue Cross and United Healthcare bidding for it after a couple of jabs at it. Blue Cross came in with the most cost-effective offer. I think it was about $175,000 less than United's final proposal, and is actually less than our current premium. So where you hear people talking about they're saying 10-15% increases, over the last 10 years, we've had minimal increases several times. Again, with the help of folks at J. Smith Lanier, we've negotiated decreases. And this year, through this process, we get to this point where we again have a very cost-effective, competitive, and comprehensive plan. I would like to point out a couple of details. It's important to know that things that are near and dear to the employees were very important in terms of looking at plan options. The proposal to go with Blue Cross does still give us 3 comparable plan options. We still have that point of service type plan, still have the HRA type plans. People want to know how this is going to affect my deduction. Suppose the employee deductions stay the same. How does it affect my co-pays? Suppose that the co-pays are basically the same. Propose that the deductibles are the same. Very much similar, if you have credit from a deductible under the current plan for the current year, you have that credit when we transition. If you have, there will be some bumps in the road. I want to make that very clear, because I know you will get calls about this. It's a very comprehensive broad sweeping thing. We haven't had a change in over 10 years. It will be an issue of communicating and managing the transition. And we'll certainly work with that from my office, goes to Jason Lanier, Blue Cross, to get the most, the smoothest transition we can have. There will be bumps in the road, but we will have comparable plans, are saving money, and I think it's an important thing to do. It's not something you do every year, because if you try to do this every year, carriers don't get their pencils out, they don't charge them, they don't want to look at somebody who's going to bounce around every year. We took a good look at this year, this is where we're at, and we recommend we do this. A couple of other items, all the ancillary coverages, things like dental, life insurance, things of that nature, and I have this listed out in your background packet. Propose no changes with those. The real change issue is medical prescription coverage transitioning from United to Blue Cross. All of other coverages staying the same, and again, same with employee deductions. So if you have any questions, be glad to try to answer them. Again, we have folks at Jason Lanier here. Ask them questions, or if you'd like to grab them after the meeting, that'd be great.
Brian, the employees that's already met their deductible, that would transition over in
Right.
May to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right. That's one of those things I was saying is near and dear to folks. Is, you know, they want to know, okay, well, if I've already met my deductible, I talked to an employee yesterday who had a child who was having surgery today. And fair enough question. If I meet my deductible, what does that mean if we transition on May 1st? And again, it's a process, but we're going to make sure that those credits are transferred. We're going to have a couple of hiccups, a couple of bumps in the road, but yes, any credit you've had towards the deductible up through April 30th with United, that will be credited to you with Blue Cross. Same thing with HRA usage and HRA balances.
Ryan, I'm glad to hear that, actually.
Well, you and I are both examples of how that's beneficial. But yeah, you and I would like to see smooth transitions and still have credit for expenses you've incurred. Yeah, and we'll see that. We will have some people who may have upcoming procedures. Give you an example. We may have somebody who has a pregnancy that is going to be due in June, maybe even in May. We want to make sure through our communications and transition, we get this message to them, hey, we want to make sure you know what to do, so if you have the smoothest transition possible. Still got coverage, we still want to make sure they're taken care of. But we don't want them to have any bumps in the road any more than they have to.
If we do, I'll call Dave.
Yeah.
Just one thing for my clarification of my knowledge.
Yes.
J. Lanier Smith is like an agency, and they,
J. Smith Lanier is insurance brokerage. They are a broker of record.
and they represent more than one company, what, several companies like that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. They don't really even represent the companies. They broker for, they serve as our insurance brokers. In other words, in this process, when we started looking at it, we said to them, we want to look at our medical and prescription coverage. We want to see what other competitive rates are out there, other plans. They take it to the insurance market. They take it to all the carriers and get quotes from the carriers. They're not necessarily representing just United, just the Blue Cross, and they don't work for the insurance companies.
If you have a problem with Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can turn to them. They're also there to call for it. Okay.
You can rest assured as well. And we do that, and that's one of the other values of that relationship is when it comes to marketing this, trying to be competitive, truly going toe-to-toe with them, questioning their underwriting formulas. David himself is an underwriter. He questions, and I have had people at UHC tell me, the problem with David is when he questions something in underwriting, he's right. They don't like that, but that's good for us. It helps ensure we have a competitive process with our benefits.
One of the things we found out in this process of a lot of companies are getting out of that business by combining. So different companies have purchased other companies, so we have fewer and fewer choices.
Right, and that seems to be one of the projected trends that we might see with Affordable Care Act. So We're definitely seeing that. We're down to only really 3 viable carriers to look at, quite honestly.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know you met with each post commissioner. And I know you met, I believe, with Mr. Davis yesterday.
We said hello yesterday, not for the first time.
And, he got his packet of stuff on Friday, and you and I have spoke over the years about insurance a lot. And one of the number one things that you let me know when we discussed this last week was just making sure that we could do the best we could for a smooth transition for the employees.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to a change in that. I think this will be good. I think we just all need to work together, like you said, with the bumps in the road. So I think we'll get through it, and I think we'll be glad we did. Thank you so much for the time that you took to call each and every one of us into your office and take the time to discuss it and go over everything. I appreciate it.
I caught burning on the fly, but we still got
Yeah.
it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Number 4, discuss action on authorizing the chairman to enter into an agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation to accept Federal Transit Authority FY16 capital grant in the amount of $129,281.40.
This one's a lot smaller item than what you've seen today. Every year we get operations grant from Georgia Department of Transportation for the operations of our 5311 buses. So these buses transport citizens. They're often referred to as senior buses, but it's not always seniors that ride these buses. They transport for employment, for medical, for shopping, for pretty much anything that the person needs transportation for. You have to call in and ask for service for the next day. Call in 24 hours in advance. This is the capital grant, which will replace 3 of our buses. And our part is 10%. So the federal portion of this, total amount of the buses will be $143,646. This contains federal grants in the amount of, or a federal amount in the amount of $114,916.29. The state contributes 10%, which is $14,364.60, and then our matching is $14,000. So basically, we pay $14,364.60 and we receive 3 buses. Any questions?
Thank you, Captain. Number 5, discuss action to adopt resolution 16-12. Paulding County Board of Commissioners reaffirmed resolution 16-05, requesting the Paulding County delegation to the Georgia General Assembly introduce a bill to amend the Paulding County Airport Authority on schedule.
Commissioner Pownell asked that we put this back on the agenda. It's the same resolution as resolution 1605 that was on the meeting agenda of the first meeting in February, and now we are having it redone because we have a placement commissioner. I'll add to that.
Yeah, we did this, I believe, on February 9th meeting with CAD, and I think that was the right thing to do at that time so that they could get the ball rolling in a timely manner. So I believe that was the right thing to do. I also believe that Chairman Austin brought up some great points, and he wanted the Post 1 commissioner to be here. Actually, when we went through the steering committee recommendations, we had a Post 1 commissioner at that time, and we had Post 1 and 2 set on the Airport Authority Steering Committee. Post 3 and 4 at that time set on the IBA Steering Committee. And so we brought that up on February 9th. That got the ball rolling with the delegation, and we've had a lot of conversations with them over the weekend, and each and every one of them. And Chairman Austin brought up some good points. You know, he wanted to have all of us here, and talked about that he agreed with it, but would like to have Post 1 commissioner here to also make that recommendation. So I thought, well, we probably ought to bring this back. We've got somebody sitting here now and bring this back and bring it before another vote to send that on to the delegation. So I appreciate us putting this on the agenda today to do that, and all of us working together on that.
That's the conclusion of a regular business session. We do have litigation, pending litigation for executive session. Do you want to make a move to go into that executive session, or do you want to hear citizens wishing to speak first?
Make the motion, we hear the three citizens wishing to speak first.
Is there a second? Second. Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Under public participation of non-agenda items, we have Dana San Filipino civility.
You've asked for mine, I didn't remember. It's San Filippo. Okay, I'm gonna make you say it.
Vernon says you change it every time.
I'm gonna make you say it 3 times. Okay. Good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about a topic on many people's minds, the lack of stability involving politics. I've been coming to BOC and other governmental meetings for the past 10 years. Because of this airport issue, I have seen bankruptcy proceedings of a citizen, mugshots of one elected official, and a 30-year-old naked photo of another elected official circulating in this room. Not to mention all of the finger-pointing, name-calling, and harsh words, both here and on various social media platforms. We are at a precipice in this county. We can choose to dwell on the past or shape future discourse on issues affecting all of us. The reality is, many of us condone or are culpable, complicit, or just plain guilty of perpetuating the lack of stability going on. Me included. Each one of us makes the decision daily to perpetuate the mistakes of yesterday or to do things differently. Gandhi once stated, if we could change ourselves, the tendencies of the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. I recently found a civility challenge on strengthbuilders.com, and I would like to share the 10-point challenge with you. I will not use social media or other venues to insult, demean, or attack others. I will exercise self-regulation, understanding I have complete control over my thoughts, behavior, and speech. I will err on the side of caution, knowing once words or actions have taken place, they cannot be taken back. I will be okay if I don't say or do everything that goes through my mind. I will think twice and act once. I will treat people with unqualified respect, even when we don't agree on an issue. They have the right to their own opinion. I will honor and respect others' differences and not mistreat them simply because we think differently on an issue. I will focus on common ground, and that will help to strengthen the relationship rather than magnify our differences. I will focus on doing what is right rather than trying to be right. I will agree to disagree and still be kind. I would like to add a few points from Choosing Civility, a book by P.M. Forney, which has 25 rules for considerate conduct, including recognizing that much of the conflict in our lives can be explained by one simple but unhappy fact. We really don't listen to one another. In order to listen, we must be actively engaged in respectful dialogue. Giving constructive criticism by identifying an issue rather than launching an attack on a person. Describing what you have observed rather than uttering accusations and name-calling. Show that you understand the person's feelings. Suggest a solution if the timing is right, and remain calm, kind, and empathetic through the exchange. There are differences of opinion on how long it takes to change one's habits. Some say 21 days, others say 66 days or longer, depending upon the habit and the individual. I have been taking the civility challenge for my own personal growth, and because I have been a part of the problem, I feel like I need to be a part of the solution. I can tell you, it is difficult to bite your tongue and clench your fist when you hear or read something you disagree with, but it is necessary to stop the cycle. We owe it to the citizens of Paulding County to become more civil in our discourse and interactions with one another, because there is no way we can effectively govern or be governed by screaming at one another. I am afraid if we do not change our course, the result is the eventual financial ruin of this county.
I encourage members of the BOC and audience to challenge themselves to choose the path of civility with a recognition that it will be fraught with trials and tribulation, and that there is a dichotomy between saying and doing. It is in our best interest to encourage and forgive others in this pursuit, as we would hope that they would encourage and forgive us. The bottom line is this: we can collectively choose to build each other up or tear each other apart. Gandhi also stated that we should be the challenge that we wish to see in the world. Who else will lead by example and take the civility challenge? I have copies for those that will. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dina Sudan, Citizen Responsibility.
I'd like to say what I propose today to hear that speech. Good speech. I came here last meeting to expose something I thought that needed to be exposed, and that was who was behind the billboards that were erected of our 3 commissioners for the recall action. I called the billboard company and told you what happened. I think it was wrong. I was asking questions. I wasn't making accusations, and I was trying to bring to your attention the kind of people that are doing business here in Paulding County. I think that I'd like to apologize to the 3 proposed commissioners for my outburst the last meeting, but I felt like I was absolutely side-blinded and attacked by the commissioner as I made my way back to the seat with his horrible insult to me that I think demanded a reaction, and you got my reaction. It was a very hurtful and heinous statement. You know, you said to me, you don't need people like me in this county. Well, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a citizen, I am a watchdog, I am a productive, active citizen in my community, and I'd like for you to just know that. I don't appreciate your insult. I think it was an insult from not only me, but many other citizens. And I want to know why you wanted to hijack the subject at hand, and that was Mr. Brett Smith and what he had done and his tactic. And then I'd also like to know, in lieu of what happened, and after I left, I did see the video of Brett Smith placing the dossier of a lady here in this room on the seats and on this very podium. I would just like to say that what I said still stands, and I'm proud of what I said. And I feel like what you said and how you addressed me was uncalled for, an attack, and I think you owe me an apology. Thank you.
Greta Leathers, respect for taxpayers.
Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Please respect is a hot topic today. I'd like to speak to you about respect of citizens, or more appropriately, the lack of respect for citizens. I'm sure all of you are aware of the airport noise complaint form made available to us via the Save Paulding County website. This complaint form is automatically distributed to the BOC, the AA, Blake Swafford, the FAA, National Guard, and just recently added Joe Sarver. Citizens are encouraged to use this complaint form when they feel they have been subjected to unnecessary or excessive air traffic noise. While I fully understand that I live next to an airport and realize air traffic noise is to be expected, there are many times that I and my neighbors feel the Clear Creek subdivision is abused by air traffic. I have personally experienced helicopters hovering over our home and or flying so low that walls and windows rattle, and our children have been awoken on school nights. There have been times when we've watched helicopters make a circling pattern over Clear Creek homes to and from the airport for literally hours on end. The interesting part is that scenarios like these are almost predictable based on how they coincide with happenings in meetings or on media events. These scenarios I'm describing are not simply entering and exiting the airfield either, which I have been told repeatedly they are not supposed to be doing according to the MOA. I have submitted pictures and videos of incidents such as these along with other Clear Creek residents and other residents throughout the county. I'd like to read you some of the comments citizens have received from airport personnel regarding complaints about air traffic noise. Some of these are from emails, and some of them are comments made by a particular airport employee on a Facebook page. Quote, "You live next to an airport, duh. If you are truly a military supporter, why would you write a formal complaint with military email address attached? Great, you visibly have a picture of a helicopter transiting the airspace above your house. Surely you took a picture. If I was going to accuse someone of doing something, especially the military, I would want evidence to back it up. Deal with it. If you don't want a commercial airport, move away. You're nothing but a military-hating troll." Not once have I specified that these helicopters were military. In fact, most of my complaints were filed at nighttime when it is impossible to identify an aircraft. Yet my name was included in a list that was plastered all over the Support Silver Comet Facebook page as being anti-military for complaining of helicopter noise. I have to wonder how the administrator of that Facebook page gained access to those complaint forms when he is not on the distribution list. Let me fill you in on just how anti-military I am. My father served 20 years in the Army and was an instructor at West Point Academy when he retired. One of my uncles suffers from PTSD after 2 tours with the Army in the Gulf War. I have a nephew currently in the Marines. I lost my brother-in-law to a landmine to Crit in the Iraq War. He left behind 4 children, one of which barely has any memories of him. Another of my uncles served in the Navy in Vietnam, and my grandfather lied about his age to enlist in the Navy and serve in World War II. We are a proud, patriotic family. I have an emotional attachment to all branches of our military. To say that I or anyone else is anti-military for complaining about air traffic noise is simply ludicrous. Mr. Austin, you comment frequently how it is always the same people standing up here meeting after meeting making speeches. Let me tell you why that is. People are afraid. They're afraid to stand before this board and speak their mind, and afraid to submit complaint forms to the airport. They're afraid of repercussions like having their boss tell them they can't associate with so-and-so or they'll be fired. Afraid of having their agricultural covenant revoked. Afraid of having their children harassed in a strawberry field or inquired about at their schools. Afraid of being followed and harassed while informing people of important meetings. Afraid of having false reports filed against them. Afraid of having lawyers write them letters with ridiculous accusations. Afraid of having their financial dossier posted on a Facebook page or distributed in an AA meeting. All of this for simply exercising their constitutional rights. When our own commission chairman calls anyone who stands at this podium and holds his feet to the fire out of order, yet sits idly by and allows others to sling mud at the other commissioners while giving them winks, nods, and smiles, who participates in a thread on the Support Silver Comet Facebook page, spewing vicious and slanderous lies about a citizen, and then calls out another citizen for insulting him on Facebook, going so far as to tell her, quote, "We don't need people like you here. Is it any wonder why others feel they do not have to treat citizens with respect?" Mr. Austin, as an elected official, you signed up for what you received. You made the choice to run for the position you hold. The citizens never signed up to be publicly humiliated, talked to like we are morons, and intimidating out of expressing our concerns and opinions on county matters. I'm almost done. While you may not agree with the things brought before you, I would certainly hope that you, all of you, will address any citizens' concerns with the respect they deserve and direct all airport employees and airport authority members to do the same. I'd like to close with a quote by Harry Truman. Once a government is committed to the principle of silencing the voice of opposition, it has only one way to go. That is down the path of increasingly repressive measures until it becomes a source of terror to all its citizens and creates a country or county where everyone lives in fear. We should not live in fear.
Conclusion of our regular business session.
Can I do something? I just want to apologize for me. I can't apologize for everybody on this board, but I can for me. If I've offended or disrespected anybody that comes up here, sometimes I'll admit, sometimes I don't enjoy what I hear on one side or the other, but it's never my intentions to disrespect any of the citizens here in the county. Thank you.
I'd like to do the same. And if there's anybody, for any reason, that would feel that I have not handled myself correctly, I apologize if that's happened. You know, it's been some tough times. I won't say the last how long, it's been a long time. But my hope and prayer, and something that I speak about every day at my dinner table with my family, and I speak about quite often to Commissioner Collette and Commissioner Crowe, is that we'll find common ground in this county, that we'll work together on what's good for the citizens of this county, what's good for today, tomorrow, and the future, for my family, for your family, for our children, for our grandchildren, that we'll find common ground. And one of the things that's been laid on my heart the last couple of months is the purpose of Paulding. I don't know what that means, but what's the purpose of Paulding? What is our purpose? I feel like all of us as individuals have a purpose. I think all of us as families, in civic organizations, churches, we have a purpose. Well, what's the purpose for Paulding? What's the purpose for all of the citizens in this room, no matter what side of the issue you're on? What is our purpose for Paulding County? I've challenged and asked maybe Commissioner Collette, Commissioner Crowe to pray for that, and I know they have. And I would ask that all of us up here, Chairman Austin, Mr. Davis, that we'll pray for what's the purpose of Paulding. What is our purpose? And that we'll come together. We're not always going to agree on things that go on in our community. And I do think we have the right to stand where we stand and fight for something that we believe in. And I think we need to treat one another with respect along the way, all of us. So if I've ever offended anybody in any way, then I apologize. I want what's best for this county, and I feel like y'all do too. So I've talked to quite a few of you. I know quite a few of you in this room, face to face, and we've had conversations, personal conversations about our life and our family. So I'm asking you to pray for this county each and every day. I'm asking you to pray for the purpose of Paulding. Pray that God will show us what our purpose is, and that we can come together and we can work together on things we agree on here, do the best that we can, and on the things that we don't, that we'll agree to disagree and do it correctly. I thank each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every citizen that comes up there to speak, whether it's something that's hard for me to accept or not. I know it's tough for a citizen to get up there and speak, and I'm so thankful that we live in a country where we can do that. So thank y'all.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I just want to say real quick, kind of changing gears just a little bit, but I just want to take a moment and say thank you to those who are here, the Citizens Post 1, as well as those that watch this recording later, for turning out in record number last Tuesday. I'm honored to be here, and I look forward to serving our community.
Do I hear a motion to go into executive session for litigation and pending litigation?
Motion to go into executive session for litigation and pending litigation.
Is there a second? Second. Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. We will return. We are back in open session. No action taken in closed session. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all.
You already eat?
Huh?
You already eat?